Hello everyone, my name is Oskar Kuijken, and in this video I will show you the joys of sculpting in Pixologic ZBrush. Quick about me, I am a character artist in the game industry. I worked on IPs like Fortnite, Darksiders and Spyro, and for the past 3 years I've also been a lecturer at Digital Arts and Entertainment in Belgium. Game university that focuses on the development of video games, both for the art side and the programming, the more technical side, but also focuses on film, video, and special effects. Before we start sculpting, let's take a look at what we will be creating. So we're going to translate this lovely little guy made by Guille Garcia, a great friend and artist, and turn him into a 3D model. The goal for this is not like a game engine ready model, but rather just focusing on shape, the colors, so it would be more something for presentation reasons than something you could put in the game engine and have it running. Before we get started, let's take a look at the base shapes we're going to be tackling. So whenever you start on something, take like a few seconds to just dissect what you'll be making and kind of turn it into these simple primitive base shapes. So these are kind of the parts we're going to start out as, kind of the building blocks for this project. So it will be kind of just a rugby ball, and then some noodly arms. The body will be just a bit boxy, a cylinder, and then a cylinder at the back. It's very important to start off with the primitive shapes so we don't lose our minds pursuing any unnecessary detail. Alright, let's get back to ZBrush. So as always, we can start off with any mesh, and we're going to make it a polymesh 3D. Now we're just going to go through our character, starting from the most important shape, in this case the head, and we're going to work our way down. In this blocking out stage, I want to focus first on getting all the parts in there, and then I can kind of keep readjusting them so they are nicely lining up and make sense in a total picture. So I don't like finish the head first and then just jump to the body. Alright, let's focus a bit. So now we have a very basic construction of our character. The reference screen you can see on the side is PureRef, which is incredibly handy because we can just turn on the transparency, toggle that, and we can kind of put our character in here side by side, so you can very easily compare how this guy looks. Alright, so now we can see the head needs to be way wider. The body is kind of right, same for the arms. It's just mostly the head that we need to change a lot. It's also very rigid, so we can I'm going to tackle that in the next phase. Now we're just gonna again go for proportions, so the head can be way wider, slightly bigger. And that's a lot more like it. Alright. So now we have these parts set. I'm not going to focus on the hole for the mouth yet. We can tackle that at a later moment. What I'm going to do at this point is pop in the eyes as well. Here, so they're a bit at the top. Yes, just nicely floating. And I'm going to mirror these, but still making sure they are separate objects. So we're getting already a bit closer to kind of the vibes of this guy. While we're at it, we can also add the hairs. At this point, it's good to think about like elements like wood. The artists have intended these as cones or more like pyramids. So just for this situation, let's say they are more pyramid-like, so you get these nice strong elements. So I'm going to append a little box, and I'm going to initialize, change that to just a regular cube. So now hidden inside my character, I have this additional cube. I'm going to make this more triangular. And then this can be kind of the base for this character's hair. For the elements on the side, I'm just going to make duplicates, load them in here. I'm gonna split these, so I have 3 different meshes to work with, and then mirror out. So we have his hair as well now. So these two are grouped together, very handy. So I can just quickly shift these in a different spot. Now let's think a bit about his overall shapes and posture. Like from the front, it's still a bit janky. Thicken his legs a bit. Let's save our project if we lose anything. Even at the start of projects, always make backups or save incrementally so we don't lose any we've been working on, because our time is very valuable. Let's give this one as a project name Stinky. You notice at the top asset over here, subtool, gets the project name. So just for future saves, so I can have a cleaner ship, we'll make this kind of pedestal. So that I can get the proper name. Alright, now let's get to our side silhouette. It's still very rigid. So what we want to aim for is more this hunched over look. Like if we compare the character, he has this nice weight almost to him, where he feels kind of leaning over, especially to counterweight the backpack. So what we'll be doing is we'll create a bit more of this mouth, give him a bit more head, and then also kind of a body that can get along with it, and then this giant cylinder can be strapped like this. Alright, so one of the fun things about PureRef is we now can paste this in here as well, so we have immediate visual reference of like our little scribbles we did. Scale these up, these ones slightly above it. Okay, so a very easy way to modify all the subtools we want to. So I don't want to change the hair too much, the eyeballs don't need to be modified as well, the base plane either, and then I'm going to go to T-pose mesh, that's in Z plugin too, and this will allow me to change all my pieces in one go. So now I can just start dragging this mesh in the positions that I need them to be. Oops, what you see here is I forgot to turn on symmetry, so just let's dial it back. Yep, turn on symmetry, and then we can do the changes again. That's one of the important things to keep, like spinning your mesh around so you can exactly pinpoint when things might go wrong. And then when we are done with these rudimentary changes, we can send it back. So we will go through the list and reposition everything where it needs to be. Right. So now, because we've made some changes and some of our meshes are still the primitives, what we're going to do is Z-remesh those. And this is a very simple way to kind of refresh your mesh, make it into something a bit more, let's say, palpable. Same here as well, you have this big pole at the top and the bottom. We don't really like those, especially when we're going to sculpt in detail. We want to have it a bit more evened out. So let's get some more cleaner meshes in here. Same for these. And just to get a nice sense of balance, let's add his battery pack. I'm going to keep it straight because it makes a lot of the modeling easier, and then we can just give it a little spin at the very end. It's quite big if we compare it to the size of our character. And then for the strap, whenever this one is in like properly posed, his battery pack, we can focus on getting his strap in the right position as well, so we can immediately get those where they should be. Let's turn on the eyes again and the hair. Let's add some digits for the feet. So the hands are rather round, we have these nice round blobby fingers, but for the feet they are a bit more, let's say, sharp, gecko-like. the shape of the arms is also not perfectly just cylindrical, so we're going to make these ones a bit smaller, especially if we want to get like the same let's say wonky vibe that's present in a character also in our sculpt, because a lot of the time it's more about getting the right vibes of your concept down than just 100% accuracy. Like in production, you'll usually be working with different concept artists who have a slightly different style, but all the characters you'll be creating are for the same project. So it's up to you to kind of get more of the feeling of the project in there compared to like an exact 100% translation of the concept. But this might vary from project to project, of course. And now, to save time, I'm just going to duplicate these and see if I can use them as feet by just slightly altering them. Okay, now we also have these fun lizard-like gecko feet. Now it's just a matter of getting that sharpness back in there, like we see in the concept. Okay, so we get at another point where we have a lot of elements in place, so we can reevaluate our shape again. I'd like him to have a bit more of this arcing back, similar to what we have in the sketch. So I'll just take these parts and then with the multiple subtool mode, move these ones as well. So we get this nice goon-like hunched over. I have the worst job attitude going. I think we'll need to shift the arms as well slightly, and I can place them here. And for the legs, just to stay in balance, we're going to move the feet slightly more behind. So we still have some sort of counterweight going, so he doesn't fall on his face. Of course, the moment the backpack is attached, we're going to slightly adjust that so his weight is properly in proportion. Alright, so now we get at a nice point where we have a lot of things going on. So we have our hands more or less in place, we have our feet. I think they might need to be slightly more like rotated outwards. Oops, the hands are moving too. Made them wider. And then let's adjust the feet again so they are a bit more inward. So now we can start working on more detaily stuff, like sculpting on the face. So we're going to build up subdivisions, we're going to block in our shapes, and then again we're going to modify that measure bit so it's cleaner for sculpting. Because now this is just a, let's say a melon. When we start getting the mouth in there, we won't have enough topology to properly refine those edges. So we'll need to ZBrush again, but that's a very quick and easy step. So let's build up some points. Let's get the nostrils in there, little nose, and then we can draw in kind of the mouth shape. Okay. So this is going to be a mask, and then we're going to transform that to like a nice piece of geometry that we can push inwards, refine it again, and then more geometry cleanup. Any like asymmetry to the mouth shape can be tackled like at a later moment. So we're going to delete lower subdivisions, edge loop, mask border. And then here we basically have now a base for our face. So let's ZBrush this again, but while keeping polygroups in mind. Alright, this isn't perfect, but it's getting closer. So we're just going to go slightly higher. 1, 2. In this stage I just want to keep them again as low as possible. You can always build up geometry, but creating lower resolutions tends to be a bit more of a nuisance. Alright, we're getting really close to a nice shape here, aside from this little dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crease the polygroups, smoothen again, and then do another ZBrush and see if that cleans up those elements. Alright, that's a bit better. Let's see again if so I'm going to go lower, do higher subdivisions. With these additional polygroups, and this will kind of save my bacon. Alright, now we're getting to a really nice loop here. I think this is kind of what we're going to go for. Let's see, one more time. Right, cool. This is a nice one. So the only thing is kind of a manual fix we need to do, where we stitch these 2 points together. Now we have a reasonably clean geometry to continue on. Alright, if this is our face now present, we can start refining that again. So because we're in this low geometry mode, we can easily just shift a bit of topology instead of having to worry about what's going on. In this image you can kind of see that this tooth sticks forward over this part of the face, while these ones kind of lean over. So it has this weird mix of an over and under bite. So we're gonna have to bring this one mainly to the front, because this tooth can be a bit jagged and just sticking forward. For like the other parts, I'm just going to nicely move the top of the face. a bit forward, so we kind of have this weird frog-like going on. So this is a very sharp line, so I've added an edge here, so I can delete this, so we get a nicer, cleaner, more, let's say, lippy look instead of this very harsh cutoff. Okay, and it might be fun to, you know, save again so we don't lose anything. And I'll do some quick cleanup. Okay, so now let's start adding some additional stuff. Let's say his bracelets, for example. So we can just start off with a cylinder, switch shifts to a different subtool, and then I can make a hole over here. So simplify it a bit. As mentioned before, we can always add geometry very easily, but having to delete a lot of geo is can be quite bothersome. This was our post version, and then this is the one we want to continue working on. Let's get that bracelet in here. And we can see that there are 4 spikes present. So let's just to make things a bit easier, steal one. Like steal a bit of our hair, let's duplicate it, and then we can just use this one as our spike. This looks okay. Let's fix the bracelet too. So for this one I'm going to add some lines here. You can see it being a bit more rounded, so maybe we can start off by getting one in the middle and then scaling it outwards, so we have a slightly more rounded bracelet, but the edges are a bit sharper, so we can get the nice shape we wanted to aim for. Alright, back to this one. Okay, cool. So we now have our bracelet, so we can put it where the arms are. And then one for the other side as well. Whoop. What a lovely goon that we're getting. Let's make these a bit taller. Okay. Next up, we can, maybe it's fun to put some colors in there. So we can over here get that color in here. One thing that is a bit easier to work with, if you want to, for example, color pick, is add a plane and then just apply the texture of your reference in there. We're gonna just eyeball it a bit more to the yellow side. Okay, it's a bit mustardy, might be a bit too bright. That's a bit better. A lot from these is like the lighting scenario, so we can take a look at that later when we're doing the presentation. So his whole body is now this mustardy color. His eyes are not completely white, and then 3 different colors of hair. You can see the other objects changing color as well, but that's just how ZBrush kind of works. Okay, auto group these. So first we're gonna go for the blue, and then for the purple. And that's already looking way more fun. This one we're gonna give it's a brownish color just for the meantime, and let's give these bracelets the color they deserve as well, the more metallic color for these elements. Okay, let's put some teeth in there, similar like what we did before. I'm gonna append a cube, and then in initialize I'm going to initialize just Q cube. And this will be the base for the teeth. Now let's create some big nacho-like teeth. Okay, this is already getting close in shape. So for these things, what is very handy to do is just save one. Like this is tooth ref, so we always have like a clean one to fall back on. Rename the bracelets. Let's give them the proper color, so it's again kind of in this orangey, yellowish vibe. And then we can place them around. And now as we have more elements in place, we can start refining again. So a lot of process is kind of back and forth between like what you've been doing and then the intentions of the concept artist. All right. So with this stage kind of done, I think the dark part of the mouth is slightly distracting at this point. We'll tweak that later on. Okay, so now we can start working high poly and some actual sculpting. So now we've been working kind of with these primitive simplified shapes, kind of the building blocks for a character. But now that the base shape is quite done, we can start sculpting on them and refining what they are. It's important to keep in mind that not everything has to be merged, like the legs and the body. In this scenario, don't need any like merging because there's going to be pants on top. Of course, if this would be like a character for animation or for a video game, and we need to swap out his clothes, then we would of course combine the legs. So we're just gonna do head, arms, think we can keep the hands separate as well, because we have the bracelets that hide the breakup. Those are small things that kind of save us some time. So whatever saves us some time to reach our end goal is always a nice given. Quickly turn off the poly paint so we can see what we're sculpting. So what I want to have is you have like a small sense of like the gesture of an eyelid going on here. So that's what we're sculpting in now. Simple shape. You also have a nose. So in order to get the nose shape in there, just going to add a small extra bit of surface on top, just so the nose doesn't disappear into anything. Alright, and that's working away some minor blemishes. Like here we get a smooth transition. And at the very end we can just drag a bit on our mesh to get closer to like the wonky vibes Guille created in his concept. I'm gonna roll back these changes so it doesn't become too big-like. Okay, let's merge some elements. So I'm going to merge the face, the body, and the arms. Or is it even necessary? Let's keep them separate, you know, let's keep it loose. We can just see where it gets us. If we really need to merge them, we can still do that at a later moment. But for now, let's keep them split up. Slightly more mad at the legs. I'm going to add a little pinch here at the knees. So I have a nice sense of like the sharpness you can see over here. I think they might be a bit higher as well, looking at the concept again. And then we need the inside of the leg too. So let's create some very primitive anatomy lines. Now continuing, what I will do is combine the legs and the feet. As you can see, they kind of slump together in one shape. So let's accommodate or mesh towards that as well. So I'm going to merge them down, Dynamesh, and I can just fill and smoothen that to kind of make sure those shapes nicely line up. And for the hands I'm going to do the same, just so that they can blend together. One thing I might do is tackle those later and then just fix it when they are posed. As you can see, this is a very different pose than this finger, and keeping them separate like this, like they are right now, will make that a lot easier. Okay, for the pants, let's do a little 1-2 trick to create the pants. The belt is pretty easy. We're just going to add a little cylindrical, hollowed out cylindrical shape for it, same as we did with the gauntlet. So we could basically see, can we, if we do, let's hide the legs, allow merge visible, and let's see if I can append this shape here. So now we have a very nice immediate visual reference of what we need to do with our cylindrical shape. So we can quickly go here and initialize and change those settings. Oh, okay, so the moment we shifted this, this one is back in its proper spot, so let's just change the location of our groove ball. I think that'll do. So we can now go back to our main file. I'll high again and append our belt. This will be the belt. And you can kind of see here, oh, my face is in front of it. You can kind of see here, it squishes down into our concept like in our mesh. So we're going to keep it slightly tighter, and then when we have the pens in there as well, we can like kind of squish our little frog buddy according to that shape. All right, now for the pants, let's hide the belt, hide the backpack. I'm going to merge visible again. And then dynamesh everything that I don't need. All these parts so I can effectively delete those. Right, delete hidden. So now I'm just merging those two, and then I'm going to create the pants. I have a very simple mesh to work on. I'm going to draw out the pan shape so it's slightly above the knee. I'm just going to take an extra second to really nicely clean up this shape for my leg. So the result we're getting is slightly nicer. Okay, so we're going to extract that, and here we have a very simple base shape for our pants. So if you're looking at this, this is a really easy go-to shape. Let's see if we can simplify this. Like, and again, this is a very clean thing to continue on. So now we can put this one back in our main scene, extract. Let's call this one pants. Let's turn on the belt as well. Now, because just as before, we're working with this low poly, nice and handy mesh, we can make changes pretty fast. So the pants is a bit more groupy, and I can just nice and easy delete these sides as well. Delete hidden, so I don't have to worry about the outer edge, just only the inner one. So on double sided so we can see the inside, and let's pull our pants above the geometry of our body, and then a bit below the ones from the belt. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we have these, let's bring out a snipping tool, the most powerful built-in tool in Windows. So we have a very low poly pants over here, and here we have these nice triangular shapes sticking out. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to use this as a base to pull out these shapes. We can get very easy, rough geometrical shapes. As you can see, I'm just dragging them out of the mesh. Very simple. I'll immediately merge them down if ZBrush allows me to. Alright. So we now have these cuts in our pants, super handy. Let's mimic the shapes of the concept a bit more. And the final tweaks will be done like when we're posing this guy or breaking our symmetry, or we will kind of get a closer look to the actual folds. Oh, we forgot one over here. And for the next step, we want to have some thickness to our pants. We're just going to do a classic extrusion to the inside because our outer side was okay. Let's make it not too thick so we can have these pants looking proper. Alright, we might have to make a small alteration to like how these change shape, but shouldn't be too harsh. Polygroups, my normals. Let's see, polygroups. Let's take a look. Alright, those are better. Except for these ones, but we can manually shift this. Going to add some subdivisions so we have more geometry to work with, and then we can clean up our shapes. I have this dark brown pants, dark green, blue green. this, and our belt is kind of like our bracelets, just a bit more brown. Okay, I think at this point it's a good moment to start working on the barrel. Let's see first to kind of give a quick polish on the hair. So then our character is mostly finished. Alright, starting on a backpack now. We'll need to do some small tweaks so it becomes a bit cleaner, because again we have this big ball on the top. So what we're gonna do first is see if ZBrush can save our butts. So detect edges. Set to a low amount. If this doesn't work, you can just again go in here and append, initialize, Q cylinder, and then give it a bit more resolution to work with. Let's see, 555, 4. Or I can just keep it as a cylinder, and we'll just wing it. All right. So first, again, building blocks. You have this main shape here, then this barrel goes down. You'll have a bit of a block right here. See. Of course. So what happened again is symmetry wasn't turned on. So let's re-roll this, turn on symmetry, so all our changes neatly stay in place. And again, we're blocking out those main shapes pretty quick, so we have a nice idea on how we want to continue this mesh. Alright, and then one more on the top. I think I can make this slightly goofier. Okay, this will do for these shapes over here, like this accordion shape. You can just add some edges. One here, and then there's sticks out, sticks in, sticks out, sticks in. Now let's start scaling these. Alright, so we have this element present now. And I'm going to crease some of these in advance so I don't have to worry about those later. That way they stay slightly sharper. When we go through the process. I think we can just manually tackle these. Some control edges. Okay, now what we're going to do next is I'm going to focus a bit on this little bobs and bobbles that are attached to our backpack. We're mostly going to build that by using the Pro Booleans. So I'm going to create a new folder, backpack. Everything in there. Colors, etc. isn't the worry yet. We're just gonna continue as is and then tackle that later. So we need a little clock over here. So I'm going to add a cylinder. And I'm going to cut kind of this shape out. I'm going to quickly delete some edge loops. And create a nice bevel to this. So the shape we are cutting out is nicely rounded as well. So let's test this out. Let's turn on live boolean, add this one to the back. And then we can subtract. Right, cool. We're getting somewhere. So now we want to make sure this curve is right. So in order to tackle that, we just gotta smooth it a bit too. And then we're going to quickly put a mesh in there that's going to mimic the elements of the clock. So we're going to just reuse the belt for this. Alright, let's finish up this barrel real quick. So we can finish our character. So we have a few of those antennae on top. I'm going to make one and then just duplicate it around. Make it a bit simpler using ZBrush. So 1, 2, and 3, and let's add a little bubble on top. For this one. I'll make a duplicate of, I'll save it first, of course. And then I'll make a duplicate of the barrel so we can modify it without having to worry about it changing. Let's see. Okay. Otherwise, this should work. So now it's a bit like this. That's good. For the belt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our cylinder right here again. So the same one you've used for the belt. And I'm just going to remove the outer side or the inner side, doesn't really matter. Alright, so what I've done is I duplicated this one and then set this one in a proper position. What we can do now is we're gonna make kind of the belt like the strap for our backpack or generator. I'm going to get into another cylinder, but the main goal of this cylinder is just to scan as much information in here, so I don't need as much sides, I don't need any heights at all, and I can basically bring this back into my main scene, append this blocky one here, and I'm going to strip all of this away, delete hidden, turn on double-sided because it makes it a bit easier. And then we can turn this into a belt. So because I'm only working with this thickness, like one strip, I don't have to worry about my mesh changing too much, as it'll give its actual width later on. So we can just go ahead and pull and push everything into the right place. We can mouse parts and rotate them. And I'm just gonna take this low poly strip and place it wherever I like. With the settings in here, I can give it like a dynamic thickness so I can kind of see which direction it is going in. I think this already gets a nice feeling across, so let's, in certain places, add some additional geometry to polish the flow so we have slightly more control. Let's make it a bit wider. So now it feels pretty thin. So I'm just gonna select the bottom half and with the move brush. Let's apply this thickness so we have something to work with. And now we want to add all these small extra details. So we can I'll duplicate it. Delete hidden. So these are basically the points where, like, the points of entry for our backpack strap. So let's couple those together real quick. It's just something to, like, so we have an extra element on our backpack to kind of say, like, oh, we have some sort of functionality here, even though it's going to be pretty simplified. Right. Let's blocky, and then you can make it this gray, and the belt can be brownish like this one. Fill. This strap has like a little part over here too, so we can just yoink that out again out of the mesh. Let's see. What is this? Alright, and then the very last thing we kind of have to do is now his weapon. So this is going to be a simple cylinder again, and then we'll use some booleans to get him properly looking. Let's speed this part up, so this is going to be what's detracted. Split in most points. the next step for this character will be to kind of pose him up. So we'll again do T-pose mesh. Or I already saved the file, which is pretty important if you're working with T-pose mesh. So things we won't have to alter is, maybe we can just turn it off for safety. So everything regarding the backpack can be hidden. I don't think we need to change anything about the straps, so just going to be what we see over here. So again, I'm going to T-pose. So we'll send the mesh over in a combined state. That lets us kind of alter the elements. Now I can easily just pick and choose the things we want. So as you can see in the concept, we kind of have our character standing like this, but still facing to the front. So we'll give the head an easy turn warp. I'll select the arms and make them a bit less symmetrical. And because we're working with kind of noodly appendages, we can also very easily just use the move brush to push them exactly in the position we want to. Same with the hand. You can now very easily just mimic kind of how it looked like in the concept. Watch out that I don't swing this one along while rotating. All right. I think we can give the head a little tilt too. And same for the mouth, we can just roll some parts up so we get the same weird angle as we get from the concept. Kind of getting that tasty wonkiness that's present in there. Alright, that's awesome. Now here for this arm, so the easiest thing to do is first we're gonna pose what we want to do with the gun. And then we can just transform your things around it. Kind of like here, makes him look a bit more nonchalant about the weapon. I think that fits the character pretty well. Alright, now the other tweaks are pretty fast. So next up, as I mentioned, we're going to clean up the hands. So now that they are in the pose, we can kind of refine them, similar to how we did it with the legs. Quickly redraw the eyes first, so they're slightly closer to what we're seeing in this image. Save it, so we have a version that is nicely posed. And now back to the hands. Let's dynamesh them. See, slightly higher. 6. Dynamesh. They're meshed together. I'll refine some blemishes and then we can just ZBrush them again, so we retain all the niceness but also the comfort of having a clean shape. Okay, now as a final detail, I'll try to recreate these sparks here. So basically what we can do is I can put a sphere in our scene, and then we're going to draw shapes on top of the sphere, kind of mimic the sparks. All right, and now at the very end we're gonna have some time to think about a pedestal. We also need to do a little bit of paint on top of this guy, so it's more than just a bland color. For the pedestal, I think just working with kind of an island in the goo setup could work nicely. So I'm going to make this cylinder a lot smaller. Let's first make it slightly longer. If this would fail, we can still just create a new one. This seems to be okay. Dissolve. And then the only thing we'd have to do is make a proper presentation for this guy. But otherwise he's practically finished. So this is a quick press on the button made by Joe Pickup, so much NPR. To kind of have a nice non-realistic, non-photorealistic presentation for your elements. But usually I bring these into Marmoset toolbag so that I have more control over the final render. Alright, that's going to be the biggest part of this video. Right after this you'll see the final Marmoset shot. But other than that, have a nice rest of the day and take care.